Hey, good morning and welcome to Coffee with Kevin. Remember when Donald Trump repeatedly called for the full release of the Epstein files while he was running for office? He talked about transparency. He talked about exposing corruption. And then last night, during the State of the Union address, he urged Congress to pass ethics reforms, including banning insider trading for members of Congress. But reform cannot be selective. Ethics cannot apply to one branch of government and not the other. When calls for transparency during a campaign are followed by redactions and delay once in office, credibility takes a hit. And when ethics reform is aimed outwardly while controversy continues to swirl inward, it feels incomplete. We are watching a presidency defined as much by institutional friction as by policy. Approval ratings remain deeply divided. That is why, for many Americans, last night's State of the Union did not feel like unity. It felt hollow. So this morning, as I get up and walk around and watch the sunrise, and I've got a squirrel right here beside me watching me do this, we've got to talk in a very serious tone about where we are as a nation. I'm ready for that. This morning I was outside recording that opening, standing next to a tree to steady the camera, and right above me, just a few feet away, a squirrel came down on a branch and just sat there watching, flipping his tail, making noise, studying everything that I was doing. It struck me, even that little creature understood something simple. Pay attention to what is happening around you. Now I like to reflect on looking out the window of a train, watching America wake up. I spent 43 years studying this country from the cab of the locomotive, learning how systems work, how signals matter, and how ignoring warning signs can cost you. And this week, I keep coming back to one word: trust. Remember when Donald Trump repeatedly called for the full release of the Epstein files while he was running for office? He talked about transparency. He talked about exposing corruption. But once elected, what we have seen are partial releases, heavy redactions, and delays. That does not automatically prove wrongdoing, but it does create a perception problem. A perception in politics is oxygen. So when we hear him stand at the State of the Union and urge Congress to pass ethics reforms like banning insider trading for members of Congress, it feels incomplete. And let me be clear, I support that ban. Members of Congress should absolutely be prohibited from trading on insider information, and violations should carry serious consequences. But ethics cannot apply to only one branch of government and not the other. Accountability must be universal. Or as it is written in the Gospel of Luke, why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye and fail to notice the log in your own? First remove the log from your own eye, and then you will see clearly. Ethics begins at home. Transparency begins at the top. Now ask yourself, why is his approval rating remaining strained? It is not just partisan opposition, it is fatigue. Independent voters are exhausted by constant controversy. Americans are worn down by institutional friction. And when leadership appears inconsistent on transparency, that erosion accelerates. I've been watching Rachel Maddow and Ari Melber analyze the Epstein files again this week. There is a difference between being named in documents and being proven guilty of a crime. That distinction matters, but there is also a difference between transparency and concealment. The documents released so far show associations and references. They do not show a criminal conviction, but they also do not represent a full public accounting. And when tens of thousands of references appear in investigative records, partial disclosure naturally raises questions, not because of hatred, because trust is fragile. Now layer onto that what happened last Friday. The Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that the administration exceeded its authority on tariff policy. The president publicly criticized that decision. Then last night at the State of the Union, only 4 of the 9 justices were present. Attendance is not required. Justices have skipped these addresses before, but in a moment of visible tension between co-equal branches, absence carries symbolic weight. Our constitutional system depends on respect between the executive and judiciary. When disputes become personal and public, confidence in institutional independence weakens. Here is the through line. Whether we are talking about the Epstein files or a Supreme Court ruling the underlying issue is institutional trust. Transparency is not radical, it is foundational. The issue is not rumor. The issue is not social media noise. The issue is sunlight. If there is nothing improper, release the full record and let the public evaluate it. Because in a divided nation, secrecy fuels suspicion. Transparency restores trust. And trust is something America is dangerously low on right now. And in my personal opinion, the reason Donald Trump isn't releasing it is because something is there that he doesn't want out. That is something to think about. This is Coffee with Kevin, and as we look down the track of another day, let's keep the conversation rolling.